You may have a really, really low settlement offer from an insurance company in your accident and injury case, and you're wondering, why is this so low? I've done this in the past. I have friends, I have family, whatever it is. This offer is not like those offers. We're going to talk about what happened on this week's Monday Morning Lawyer. Good morning, everybody. It's your accident and injury guy, Attorney Bowers, here in my Elkton office. Today, we're going to talk about what goes into making some of these insurance company offers so different than some of the other ones. And there are a lot of reasons for it. And we're going to try to go through a couple of them here and let you know, really, it all comes down to the fact that no two insurance companies handle these cases and evaluate these cases and have the same playbook as any other insurance company. Many of them have similarities between one and the other, but the playbooks are not exactly the same. One of the major reasons why you and your cousin 5 years ago who was in an accident may have very, very different offers oftentimes is exactly that, the insurance company paying the claim. And it goes a little deeper than that, but I want to talk about how that operates because an insurance company, when you buy auto insurance or really any other insurance, but for these purposes, automobile insurance, that insurance company has a duty to the insured party, driver of the insured vehicle, to protect them should they cause a harm. Usually they cause an accident or some other sort of negligence that's applicable on that policy. The duty that they have is not, I repeat, not to the person that was injured by their insured. They have no contract, no duty. Even if the insurance companies are the same, the duty does not extend. Why do I bring this up? Because some insurance companies are far more interested in that duty than every single nickel and every single dime. All insurance companies want to pay as little as possible for each and every single one of these claims. They are looking for ways to cut corners. They are looking for ways to save money. They are looking for, they want to profit. However, some of them take their duty to their insured much more seriously than others. Places in which we see this a lot, commercial policies and insurance companies who write a lot of commercial lines, especially if it's like a trucking company. There's a few things at play here. Number one, as we've talked about in the past, insurance coverage, how much insurance you have. Generally, not automatically, but generally speaking, and most of the time, commercial vehicles, truck vehicles, things of that nature have larger insurance policies, which means more potential risk if the insurance company gets a jury who renders a runaway verdict. Additionally, the logistics when it comes to a commercial vehicle and a commercial driver, especially if it's like a truck driver who's a long road driver who's all over the place. If there's a trial date in Elkton next Thursday, well, the insurance company needs to make sure that their driver is there. Otherwise, it's going to be bad news for them. So there are extra logistics and extra costs that most of the time with those companies, not all the time, none of this is guaranteed because, again, every insurance company operates a little bit differently than others. But most insurance companies say, I don't want to mess with this. Let me throw more money than this case might be worth, or very, very close to what the value might be for an average jury or judge to render it. Why? They don't want to deal with it. Their cost to take this thing to the next step, both financially and with time, are very, very different, very, very high, very, very expensive, and they don't want to deal with it. And it's worth it for them to say, hey, we're going to pay 20% more than one of these big, kind of run through, get as many volume clients as we possibly can, TV insurance companies. Let's just pay like 20% more than they would. Hopefully the person goes away, and be willing to negotiate and put even more money on it, because their time and their other resources are more valuable than what they're paying out on these claims. And they also generally tend to collect a higher rate. And there's no rule of thumb on this. Again, all of this stuff is variable, but they generally tend to collect these premiums and pay out a lower percentage. There's less accidents with professional drivers. There are certainly accidents with professional drivers, but the percentage, the likelihood is a little lower because they're professional drivers. Still very susceptible to accidents because of the time that they're spending on the road. But the other factor that you see, especially with the commercial companies, but also some of the normal consumer companies, is that if they're not huge as far as their volume in a particular state, they are probably hiring and paying a retainer and hourly for the defense attorney to defend the claim. If we file suit in a claim, they've got a very short window of time in which to hire that attorney and have that attorney respond to the complaint that we filed. If they offer good money and enough good money that we never file a lawsuit, they don't have to put out the money to hire the attorney to defend the case, because ultimately, let's just say that the case is worth $100,000. We're not even going to talk about the facts. We're just going to assume it's worth $100,000. $100,000 is how this case settles. Whether they offer it voluntarily, whether it goes to a mediation, or whether it goes to trial, that's what they're going to pay out on this claim. That's what it's worth. If they offer that $100,000 or close to it voluntarily before a lawsuit has been filed, they're done with it. It's over. The claimant signs a release of claims. They send the check. Done. The release means no more lawsuits in the future. If they decide to be squirrely about it and say, we're going to offer you $30,000, and then the attorney, like me, says, we're just going to file suit, this offer's embarrassing, they have a very tight window of time to say, no, we want to actually settle this case. How about this amount of money? And they eventually get to the $100,000. Or they've got to cut a check for probably $20,000 or $30,000 for a retainer, which is going to be drawn on with hourly payments as the defense attorney does the work that they do over a period of time. And then they're going to settle the claim for $100,000. So now the case that they could have resolved for $100,000 cost them $130,000 and a bunch of time and logistics and everything like that. So of course they don't want to do that. And then the third is, if it goes all the way to trial, they've probably spent more than the initial retainer, and they run the risk of a jury saying, hey, we think this case is worth $150,000. So now they've paid a $150,000 verdict and over $50,000 in attorney's fees, because they're billing hourly, and it gets super intense and very time sensitive near the end of one of these cases. Plus, they're probably paying another $20,000 or $30,000 to hire medical experts to say this person wasn't hurt, that didn't cause those injuries, or whatever other things that they're paying the independent doctors to do their reports. So now they've paid twice as much as that they could have paid to get rid of the lawsuit. Where you don't see this is the big companies. Think about the ones that you see advertising on TV. I don't need to name any names. Most of them have law firms that insurance company actually owns in that particular state. So they don't care if they have somebody file suit against one of their drivers 5, 50, 500, or 5,000 times. The cost for the attorneys to defend those cases is fixed because they're paying them salaries. So those companies care less about the gamut of, hey, they filed suit, maybe we need to get this case settled. So that can also be a factor. And then the biggest factor, and it's why I exist, it's why I am here, it's why my office is here, is that if you are somehow trying to negotiate one of these accident cases with an insurance company, you don't have an attorney, 99 out of 100 of these insurance companies are going to offer you absolute garbage. They're not even going to offer you the full medical bills. They're not going to offer you anywhere near what these claims are worth, because they're going to operate off of the assumption that you have no clue what the case is actually worth. You've got half true or completely false information that maybe you got from a Google search, or ChatGPT told you that it was worth. You've kind of fallen into the trap of one of those stupid little, like, oh, let me put all of my information into this settlement calculator, and then 60 attorneys call you because all they are is trying to generate leads that they sell to attorneys. Don't do any of that kind of stuff, and it's not accurate at all. Insurance companies, if you don't have an attorney, are more likely than not going to try to take advantage of you and tell you, hey, an attorney's just going to take a third of this money. No, the attorney's not going to take a third of this money, your garbage offer that's not even the medical bills. The attorney's going to take a third of an offer or a verdict that is much, much more, and much, much more in line with what that case is worth. So the attorney's fee will be bigger, but so will your proceeds if you hire somebody that actually knows what they're doing. So you want to know why some of these cases have offers that are different than others? Well, I just gave you about 10 minutes worth of different scenarios that could come into play here. So as always, if you were injured in an accident, contact my office. This is the only thing that we do here. We only do it here in Cecil County. So we are locked in with all of these insurance companies. We know most of their playbooks as well as they do. We know which companies are going to roll over and give more money when we file suit, which buttons we need to press with which companies to get them to actually offer what these cases are worth. That's all the time I got for you today. Thanks for tuning in again. We are exploring changing the time of this podcast. We might be bumping it back. Still going to be on Monday mornings, but we might be bumping this to an 11 a.m. time frame. Things have gotten a little bit busier here in the office in the mornings on Monday, so we might be pushing it. We'll keep you posted on that, but it will be the same channel, the same place that you can stream this no matter what time we move it to, and we'll let you know in advance. And of course, they're always available in the archives afterwards. In fact, if you want to find an old episode, go to our website, bowerslawmd.com. Check it out where it says podcast right up there at the top. You're going to be able to search for and find any of the old episodes of this podcast. It's been like 2 years of doing this podcast. There's a ton of information on that page. And as always, if you have something that you want me to discuss on the podcast, right there, info@bowerslawmd, like Maryland.com. Make sure you mention with your question that you want me to talk about it on the podcast, or you might just get the answer and never see it on the podcast. Of course, we're never going to put your private information out there, and anything that you absolutely do not want discussed on the podcast. Not that we're going to put any of your personal information in the topic when we do that on the podcast. Make sure you're clear about that. That's all I got for this week. Be safe. Be safe out there. Be well, everybody. We'll see you back